But you know I can't. You are an alpha. If you insist, the reason I called you is that I want you to accompany me somewhere. Tiga raised an eyebrow at him. Where are we going? She asked. To White Star. Tiga froze. She thought she might have heard him wrong. To where? White Star. That renowned magazine company. Immediately Viga paled. Her hands trembled and beads of sweat instantly rushed to her forehead. Why was this happening to her? She thought she had escaped from her past, but she was wrong. Her past had suddenly started hunting her. What's wrong, Viga? You are scaring me. She tried to compose herself. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. I'm fine, she managed to say as she wiped off the sweat on her forehead. Why do you want to go there? She asked, very curious to know. Well, over the years, the Lycan King was known for rejecting the offers given by other companies. This time, I believe I can give him an offer he won't be able to resist. Tiga stared at Raphael suspiciously. She thought that whatever plan he might have would not be favorable for her at all. Are you in any way saying you want to partner with him? He nodded in agreement. No, you won't. She blurted it out without thinking twice. Excuse me, Raphael said, seemingly confused by what Viga was trying to say. What I meant to say was, he won't. You know, considering how much he had rejected other companies, she said, quickly changing her former statement. That won't be a problem. Like I said, I will double the offer, so he won't be able to refuse. Viga opened her eyes wide in shock. She thought, just what kind of offer is he planning to give to the Lycan Alpha? So, how may I be of service by coming with you, if I may ask? She managed to ask him. I just need you by my side, Viga, you match my appearance. She shot Raphael a knowing glare. Not again. She had known he was interested in her ever since he told her about his feelings a year ago. Not that she didn't like him. In fact, Raphael was strikingly handsome with dark hair, brown eyes, and a perfect jawline. He was huge and tall, like every woman's dream, and that's why he got almost half of his female employees crushing on him. But all that didn't interest her. For one reason, she wanted to avoid becoming enemies with her boss, and secondly, she has no romantic feelings towards him. All she felt for him was gratitude for taking her in as one of his own, and making her comfortable even though she did not do anything to deserve it. What say you? Are you coming? This was terrible. What was she to say being faced with such a situation? If she refused, she might only get suspected, and knowing how intelligent Raphael was, he might find out in due time. If she accepted to go with him, it still wouldn't do her any good, because that would mean she had to come face to face with her nemesis, who was none other than her sister. Also, meeting her stolen mate might do nothing but hurt her to a great length. Viga contemplated within herself what to do. While she was thinking, Raphael stared at her suspiciously. He might be thinking in his mind about why she was acting weird. In order not to make things harder for herself, Viga decided to go with him to White Star. She saw how happy Raphael looked when she finally agreed to go with him. If he knew the courage it took for her to accept his request. Viga waited outside for her friend Sandy to pick her up. Sandy was well treated by Diane compared to Gwen's treatment towards her. Though it seemed like a game of competition between the two of them, the fact remained that Sandy lived a more comfortable life working for Diane. However, she did not envy her friend because she was the one who chose to work in the lowest department even when she was given a higher position. Hey best friend, let's go home, Sandy said, smiling at her. They got home after an hour's drive, and Viga immediately ran to her closet. If she were to go to White Star, then she needed something appropriate to wear, so as not to look strange since she was going to the most renowned company. What's happening, and why are you picking a dress? San asked curiously as she walked into Viga's room. I need to find a dress as soon as possible. Sandy gasped in shock. Are you going on a date with someone? This made Viga drop the dress she was holding to glare at her friend. It's not a date, she said sternly. It's not. Then why do you require a dress? She heaved a long sigh. How was she to explain this to her friend? Though it was only right for Sandy to react that way because she hardly ever put on a dress. Her favorite clothing is always loose-fitting pants and shirts. She can't count how many times Sandy begged her to put on a dress so she could look girly. Well, if it had been 6 years ago, then she would have agreed on this with Sandy. But ever since she left her pack, she had lost interest in becoming a model. She felt satisfied just working with them. That way she didn't have to feel so down about not reaching her dreams. Could you just help me search for a dress? I promise to explain later, she managed to say in order to divert the questions. Sandy helped her in the search and finally, they settled on a white dress. This was the first dress she bought for herself with her first salary. Ever since she bought the dress, she hadn't tried it on. Sandy personally handpicked the dress for her to wear, and she believed it would look good on her. Just as she had said, because Sandy was good at picking a dress. One of the reasons Diane likes her. When Vega put on the dress, it indeed looked so fine on her. It was a suit gown with transparent lace at the chest region. Perfect. Vega opened her eyes wide in shock at how fitting the gown looked on her body. She immediately pulled it off and had it properly ironed. When she laid herself on the bed to sleep, she kept thinking about what would happen when she got to the company. Would Reynold recognize her? Of course, he would when he had another version of her beside him in his bed. The mere thought of Victoria having sex with her mate somehow made her jealous. She pushed the thought out of her head. Ever since she watched them leave, she had made up her mind that she would never care about what happened to them. Before she forgot, she had to hide her scent. For goodness sake, why did Raphael choose to have White Star as a business partner? Why not another company? When next day came, strangely, she woke up without having to put off the alarm. She immediately dashed to the bathroom, where she took her bath and got dressed before Raphael called for her. She did a little makeup. But then she asked herself, why was she making herself up? It wasn't as though she was trying to be attractive to anyone. Furthermore, she quickly wiped her lips with a wipe, and just then, she heard the honking of a car. Raphael drove into her driveway, and immediately she carried her purse and headed out. Sandy had gone to work earlier, and Raphael had earlier informed her boss Gwen that she wouldn't be working for her today. Considering how love-stricken Gwen was, she accepted it with all pleasure since it was coming from the CEO himself. Getting into Raphael's car, she noticed him looking at her with surprise well written on his face. Is something wrong? She asked, seemingly confused. Nothing, he said sharply, switching on the ignition key to the car. Along the way, she caught him stealing glances at her from time to time, and this made her very uncomfortable. You are staring, Raphael, she managed to say. Will you blame me? How can I not stare when you are looking so beautiful? Vega instantly felt shy. She had totally forgotten how beautiful she looked in the dress. Indeed, she could not blame Raphael, she thought, smiling. After driving for 2 hours, they finally stopped at a massive skyscraper building. Vega stared at the giant company in front of her, which read Welcome to White Star. She gasped. This was her first time seeing such a massive building. Give me your hand, Raphael requested as he stretched his elbow towards her. She shyly gave him her hand, and together they walked into the building. Wow! Even the air inside the company smelled nice. Jackie immediately jumped for joy. She couldn't help but smile at the happiness of her Wolf. Jackie had been so quiet over the years that she even thought she never had a Wolf. But feeling Jackie's happiness also made her feel alive. The comfort she felt in this company was entirely different from the one she felt in Raphael's. It was as though she were home. The peace and comfort she felt were unmeasurable. Getting further into the company, she became bewildered at the famous models she had always seen on TV. Back then, she knew they were in White Star, but never in her wildest dream did she ever think Reynold to own the company. The thought of Reynold suddenly brought back her heartache instantly. This made her take a firm grip on Raphael's hands. He took a quick glance at her. He must have felt her fear. "Are you okay?" he asked, looking very concerned. "Yes, I'm okay," she lied, putting on a fake smile. They took the lift which carried them to the floor where Reynolds' office was located. Raphael had initially booked an appointment with Reynolds, so he was directed towards the meeting spot, which was closer to his office. As soon as the supposed secretary to Reynolds or Vega, she gasped in horror. She stared intently at their hands as they held each other firmly. "Why do you seem surprised?" Raphael asked the young lady with big brown eyes and brown hair. The secretary swallowed hard before she spoke. "Please give my manners, Mr. Raphael. This way, please." She directed them to Reynolds' meeting hall, where he waited for them. Vega seemed perplexed as to why the secretary looked at her that way. Damn, Vega panicked. She must have been stupid not to think about her sister. How could she possibly forget how identical she was to her sister? At this point, she so wished she could escape, but it was too late for that. They were already at the entrance leading to his office. Raphael took a quick glance at Vega, seemingly confused by her behavior. He squeezed her hands tightly, thinking she was just nervous since it was her first meeting with someone like Reynolds. "You don't have to panic, Vega. I'm here," he said, assuring her of her safety. How she wished she could calm herself down at this point when she should never have agreed to come here. This was all her fault, less than she thought about how Victoria would react if she found her in the company. Suddenly, the door to the meeting room flung open. Vega held her breath in her mouth, and her hands suddenly started trembling again, knowing she was going to see him now. For more stories, subscribe to the Romance Library. Thank you for watching.